This is Adam from Recreation Services, and today is the first video in a series that we're going to do on old school exercises that are now considered contraindicated and not recommended generally. So we're going to discuss why these exercises are no longer considered safe and what we do instead, and if these exercises still have a time and a place in today's industry. So the first exercise we're looking at is the lat pull down, specifically in the bar path of the lat pull down. If you're around my age, you learned the lat pull down, you're probably pulling behind the head or behind the neck. So hands wide, overhand grip, you're pulling down to the top of your shoulders, bottom of your neck. Okay, now instead of that, we're leaning back a little bit, and now we're pulling to the top of the sternum. Okay, so why did we go from behind the neck to in front? So studies have shown that the position behind the neck puts you at risk for a few other sorts of injuries. When you are in an external rotation and horizontal shoulder abduction, when you're going behind the head, you put a lot more stress on your rotator cuff, which is working extra hard to stabilize your humerus. This increased stress on the rotator cuff then puts you at a higher risk of tendinitis and pain from impingement of your rotator cuff. Also, when you're in this horizontal abduction and external rotation, you're also putting stress on the anterior capsule of your shoulder, as well as to make room for this bar when it's coming down. A lot of times, people are flexing forward at the neck. So now we have that combination of horizontal abduction, external rotation, and neck flexion. These combinations of movements increase your risk of injury to your brachial plexus, which is a group of nerves running through your shoulders to your arm. An injury to the brachial plexus can lead to temporary pain, numbness, and even paralysis of your arm. And lastly, although probably not the most likely, you do run the risk of also hitting the back of your head or back of your neck with the bar. However, generally speaking, the bar isn't moving so fast that it's going to cause major injury if you do tap it, but I guess it could be if you're moving extra fast. Because of all of these risks, we changed bar paths to the front, but is that any better in terms of development, in terms of the goal of the exercise? So muscle activation, in studies in the last 15 years or so, they found that pulling to the front has the same or more lat activation, and lat development is the primary goal of the lat pull down, as indicated by the name. Pulling in front, you are getting the same, at least, or more, depending on the study, work of your lats. Pulling behind the neck, you do get more rear delt and more bicep activation, but again, those are kind of secondary goals to the exercise if you're really focused on the lats. So why don't we do behind the neck? Well, if we think about the risk and reward, we have one exercise that gives us the same or maybe less results depending on the research with additional risk, or something safer that is the same or better. So obviously we're going to take the one that's as good or better without the risk, which is why now we pull to the front. And the reason most people are at a higher risk now especially is that most people don't have the shoulder mobility to pull behind the neck. Now we spend a lot more time on computers, watching TV, on our phones and stuff, and we're a lot more hunched over. Generally speaking, we don't have the shoulder mobility that we did years ago even to be able to do this exercise safely. That being said, can you still do it safely? Potentially. You do need to make sure you have good shoulder mobility, like I just mentioned. If you do have really good shoulder mobility and you insist on doing it this way, you can potentially do it safely. The other thing you need to do is be careful for your neck, like we mentioned, the brachial plexus. One thing to do, rather than flexing your neck forward to make room for the bar, if we can more flex your hips forward so you can maintain a neutral neck position, it'll let you pull down without flexing the neck forward, and then you'll reduce risk of injury to the brachial plexus that way. So generally speaking, not recommended to go behind the neck just because of the risk involved and the fact that it's not that much better, or not better at all, depending on the research you look at. So we recommend going in front, but if you do have to, if you insist on pulling behind the neck, and it's just something you're used to and something you like to do, just make sure you have the shoulder mobility to do it, and make sure you watch that neck position. Hopefully that helps clear up some misconceptions about these exercises and helps you in your exercise selection in the future. Good luck.